35th verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Which verse again? Sorry.
It's a second canto, second chapter, verse 35.
Right.
Okay. Bhagavan Sarva Bhuteshu Lakshita Svatmana Hari Drishya Buddhi Adibir Drasta Lakshaner Anumapaka Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu Lakshitas Svatmana Hari Drishya Buddhi Adibir Drasta Lakshaner Anumapaka Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu Lakshita Svatmana Hari Drishyer Buddhi Abidir Drasta Lakshaner Anumapaka Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu Lakshita Svatmana Hari Drishyer Buddhi Abidir Drasta Lakshaner Anumapakai
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu Lakshita Svatmana Hari Drishya Pudya Divir Drashta Lakshaner Anumapakai
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu Lakshita Satvatma Hari Drishya Buddhi Abhir Drishta Lakshaner Anupamakai.
Anyone over the internet wanna chant?
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu Lakshita Svatmana Hari Drishyer Buddhyadibhir Drasta Lakshaner Anumapakai
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu Lakshita Svatmana Hari Drishya Buddhyadibhir Drasta Lakshaner Anumapakai
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu Lakshita Svatmana Hari Ishe Buddhyadi Bhidrasta Lakshane Lanuma Pakai
Lakshana
Okay, Bhagavan,
Bhagavan,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
Sarva,
Sarva,
all.
all,
Bhuteshu,
Bhuteshu,
in the living entities.
in the living entities,
Lakshita,
Lakshita,
is visible.
is visible,
Sva Atma,
Sva Atma,
along with the self.
along with the self,
Hari,
Hari,
the Lord.
the Lord,
Drishyai,
Vishai,
by what is seen.
by what is seen,
Buddhi Adibi,
Buddhi
Adibi,
by intelligence.
by intelligence,
Drashta,
Drashta,
one who sees.
one who sees,
Lakshanai,
Lakshanai,
by different signs.
by different signs,
Anumapakai,
Anumapakai,
by hypothesis.
by hypothesis.
Translation, purport by Srila Prabhupada. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is in every living being along with the individual soul. And this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence. Purport. The general argument of the common man is that since the Lord is not visible to our eyes, how can one either surrender unto him or render transcendental loving service unto him? To such a common man, here is a practical suggestion given by Srila Shukadev Goswami as to how one can perceive the Supreme Lord by reason and perception. Actually, the Lord is not perceivable by our present material senses, but when one is convinced of the presence of the Lord by practical service attitude, there is the revelation of the Lord's mercy. And such a pure devotee of the Lord can perceive the Lord's presence always and everywhere. He can perceive that intelligence is the form direction. I just wanted to ask Dear Govinda if you could just clarify on this statement, form direction.
I don't have a clear conception of Prabhupada's use of that form direction phrase.
Yeah. Okay. So he can perceive that intelligence is the form direction of the Paramatma plenary portion of the personality of Godhead. The presence of Paramatma in everyone's company is not very difficult to realize, even for the common man. The procedure is as follows. So it's pretty interesting. It's basically a guided meditation made by Prabhupada. So, it's going to be good. The presence of Paramatma in everyone's company is not very difficult to realize, even for the common man. The procedure is as follows. One can perceive oneself, identification, and feel positively that he exists. He may not feel very abruptly, but by using a little intelligence, he can feel that he is not the body. He can feel that the hand, the leg, the head, the hair, and the limbs are all his body parts and parcels, but as such, the hand, the leg, the head, etc. cannot be identified with himself. Therefore, by using intelligence, he can distinguish and separate his self from other things that he sees. Yeah, so I remember when I was a kid, I used to be in a little small body, and I remember going into the refrigerator and gauging how I was growing by, when I could finally pick up the 2-liter milk carton with one hand. I used to climb on top of the refrigerator and try to see how close I was to being able to touch my head to the ceiling, so we can see practically how, as life goes on, that how I was a child before, and then my body's getting bigger, and growing. Mind is changing all the time. And so now we're in adult bodies. So it's experiential thing that we can observe. Therefore, just by using intelligence, he can distinguish and separate himself from other things that he sees. So the natural conclusion is that the living being, either man or beast, is the seer, and he sees besides himself all other things. So there is a difference between the seer and the seen. So now, by a little use of intelligence, we can also readily agree that the living being who sees the things beyond himself by ordinary vision has no power to see or move independently. All our ordinary actions and perceptions depend on various forms of energy supplied to us by nature in various combinations. Yeah, so it's like that. You see that if the lights go out, you can't see your own hands, so we're dependent. Our senses are imperfect, and if the lights go out, then we can't see anything. We don't have any control over that. Our senses of perception and action, that is to say, our 5 perceptive senses of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell, as well as our 5 senses of action, namely hands, legs, speech, evacuation organs, and reproductive organs, and also our 3 subtle senses, namely mind, intelligence, and ego, 13 senses in all, are supplied to us by various arrangements of gross or subtle forms of natural energy. It is equally evident that our objects of perception are nothing but the products of the inexhaustible permutations and combinations of the forms taken by material nature. As this conclusively proves that the ordinary living being has no independent power of perception or of motion, and as we undoubtedly feel our existence being conditioned by nature's energy, we conclude that he who sees is spirit, and that the senses as well as the objects of perception are material. The spiritual quality of the seer is manifest in our dissatisfaction with the limited state of materially conditioned existence. So I always remember at one point in my life, when I was a kid, I was just kind of like going about things, just enjoying being full of life and curiosity and having fun and that, and didn't really question anything too much, But later on, when I could, we experienced frustration in our relationships, and things not necessarily going the way that we want, and it becomes not necessarily all just fun. We have responsibilities, and we're able to start to kind of like see how things are happening in the world. And so I was able to see how I was somehow held back. Like I still have this burning desire, this feeling of something inside of me, like this potential that I just wanted to express, but somehow it was always being muffled or being hindered, or just not able to do it in its complete fashion. Yeah, and I've felt that for many years. I feel like probably it's the same for everybody, and that can be, it's a very type of suffering, to feel that burning desire to want to just basically be myself, express myself fully, and and the frustration of that. Yeah. The spiritual quality of the seer is manifest in our dissatisfaction with the limited state of materially conditioned existence. Yeah, and I found that basically the way that I try to numb myself to that dissatisfaction was to seek shelter of intoxication. You know, the difference between spirit and matter. Okay, the spiritual quality of the seer is manifest in our dissatisfaction of the limited state of materially conditioned existence. Yeah, so that's something, that's our spiritual nature calling out within us. That's the positive thing. We can tell our soul, our nature is there by its signs. You know, maybe the common man can't necessarily perceive themselves as spirit soul, but they can see by the signs that there is something inside of them that's unsatisfied, that wants more. You know, you always want the party to go on. You never want the happiness to end. You know, you don't want you always want the love to keep growing. You know. So the difference between spirit and matter. There are some less intelligent arguments that matter develops from the power of seeing and moving as a certain organic development, but such an argument cannot be accepted because there is no experimental evidence that matter has anywhere produced a living entity. Trust no future, however pleasant. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like that. Your mind is always trying to, the mind is always trying to fabricate some, what is it? Sense gratification comes from mental speculation, right? So there's always something around the corner that things are going to be satisfied, things are going to work out. It's like the carrot on the string, right? The ass is always going for it. It's just always like that, you know? And it just comes up one different situation after another where you think, oh, this is going to be it. This is going to be it, you know? So it's just like, it's funny how we just keep falling for the same trick over and over again, you know? It's just got a different covering over it. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite ridiculous. Idle talks regarding future development of matter into spirit are actually foolish, because no matter has ever developed the power of seeing or moving in any part of the world. Yeah, I heard this one. Prabhupada told them, the scientists, he was saying, I think I heard you say this one before too, that he said, okay, you say that you're going to create life. We said, well, then here, go to the store and take an egg, a chicken egg, and then produce a chicken with it. He says, yeah, so the chicken is a better scientist than you are, you know? So, yeah. And he says in another book about how they're basically, what is it, coming back again? The one about science of reincarnation, how they're making promises saying about how the machines, they're going to make machines with life, with soul and stuff like that. And he said, it's a fantasy. It's not going to happen, you know? Therefore, it is definite that matter and spirit are two different identities. This is this conclusion is arrived at by the use of intelligence. Now we come to the point that the things which are seen by a little use of intelligence cannot be animate unless we accept someone as the user or the director of the intelligence. Intelligence gives one direction like some higher authority, and the living being cannot see or move or eat or do anything without the use of intelligence. When one fails to take advantage of intelligence, he becomes a deranged man. And so a living being is dependent on intelligence or the direction of a superior being. Such intelligence is all-pervading. Every living being has his intelligence, and this intelligence, being the direction of some higher authority, is just like a father giving direction to his son. The higher authority who is present and residing within every individual living being is the Supersoul. At this point in our investigation, we may consider the following question. On the one hand, we realize that all our perceptions and activities are conditioned by arrangements of material nature. Yet we also ordinarily feel and say, I am perceiving, I am doing. Therefore, we can say that our material senses of perception and action are moving because we are identifying the self with the material body, and that the superior principle of super self is guiding and supplying us according to our desire. By taking advantage of the guidance of a super self in the form of intelligence, we can either continue to study and to put into practice our conclusion that I am not this body, or we can choose to remain in the false material identification, fancying ourselves to be the possessors and doers. Our freedom consists in orienting our desires either toward the ignorant material conception or the true spiritual conception. We can easily attain to the true spiritual conception by recognizing the super self, Paramatma, to be our friend and guide, and by dovetailing our intelligence with the superior intelligence of Paramatma. The super self and the individual self are both spirit, and therefore the super self and the individual self are both qualitatively one and distinct from matter. Okay, yeah, the super self, the individual self, and the individual self are both spirit, and therefore the super self and the individual self are both qualitatively one and distinct from matter. But the super self and the individual self cannot be on an equal level because the super self gives direction or supplies intelligence, and the individual self follows the direction, and thus actions are performed properly. Yeah, so it's kind of like a Chintya Beta Beta Tattva. Like, I mean, it's saying it here, and we can, you know, I'm talking about this, I'm reading it, but it's inconceivable in the sense that I can't really understand it until I'm doing it, you know? So, and he's pointing out about how we're qualitatively the same as Paramatma, but we're different, you know, because Paramatma is the controller and we're the followers. The individual is completely dependent on the direction of the super soul, super self, because in every step, the individual self follows the direction of the super self in the matter of seeing, hearing, thinking, willing, etc. So far as common sense is concerned, we can come to the conclusion that there are three identities, namely matter, spirit, and super self. Now, if we go to the Bhagavad Gita or Vedic intelligence, we can further understand these three identities, namely matter, individual spirit, and the super spirit are all dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, I was wondering about this actually recently, about a little more about what our relationship is with matter and our identity to it. So what I'm getting is that my identity with matter and with the body is that I'm identifying with it. It's like a perverted identification of the spirit self. I'm trying to experience myself through matter. I'm trying to experience God through matter. and that's where the attachment comes. Yeah, I don't know. But I can't remember exactly what I was going to say about that. But now if we go to Bhagavad Gita or the Vedic intelligence, we can further understand that all three identities, namely matter, individual spirit, and the super spirit, are all dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The super self is a partial representation or plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Bhagavad Gita affirms that the Supreme Personality of Godhead dominates all over the material world by his partial representation only. God is great, and he cannot simply be an order supplier of the individual selves. Therefore, the super self, super self cannot be a full representation of the Supreme Self. Purushottam, the absolute personality of Godhead. Realization of the super self by the individual self is the beginning of self-realization, and by the progress of such self-realization, one is able to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead by intelligence, by the help of authorized scriptures, and principally by the grace of the Lord. The Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary conception of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the further explanation of the science of Godhead. So if we stick to our determination and pray for the mercy of the director of intelligence, sitting within the same bodily tree, like a bird sitting with another bird, as explained in the Upanishads, certainly the purport of the revealed information in the Vedas becomes clear to our vision, and there is no difficulty in realizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. The intelligent man, therefore, after many births of such use of intelligence, surrenders himself at the lotus feet of Vasudeva, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7:19. Okay. So, yeah, I was thinking of this this verse from the Sri Upanishads, where it's saying that we're supposed to study nescience and knowledge next to each other. So I like how Prabhupada's going through and assessing the senses and the mind and the body, and what our relationship is to material nature, and also Paramatma, and how that comes to eventually to Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or Purushottam. Yeah, so yeah, there's three identities. So we have our identity as I am my, like I am this body, and everything in relation to the body is under my control. And yeah, as I was saying, yeah, that's the source of our frustration, you know, because we're trying to identify with this temporary situation, think that it's me, you know, and it's my attachment, and my consciousness is kind of like caught up in all this, the material nature. It's such a you know, I think that's why we become so enamored by it, is because it does have a relation to our consciousness. Like we do, our consciousness is kind of like, I guess, like reflecting off of the material nature, and and our desires for happiness are connected with it. You know, like say, for example, I have a desire to I'll have a desire to be the controller. So then I'm given some facility to control, you know, as far as I'm giving a body like a position of like a leadership position. So because my connection to that position is through my desire. So, but the frustration comes because it's not actually, the situation is not actually me. And so things are working out in ways that I don't want them to. And there is like a disconnection there. You know, I'm trying to get happiness from this external situation. Yeah. So yeah, and then there's the so the spirit soul, and that, so then there's spirit soul, Paramatma as intelligence. So the tipping point to where we're being caught up in material nature, or caught up in, or being under the dictation of the higher energy of the Lord, is what my identity is. Am I the enjoyer? Am I the servant? You know, what's mine? I have, you know, I want everything to be mine to enjoy, or I am yours, you know. And so the intelligence is basically, I'm identifying with the intelligence as being me, but it's actually Paramatma is controlling this body and the nature around me through my intelligence. It's just when I have a desire, Paramatma is fulfilling that, and when my desires are in accordance with what Paramatma is dictating, then I'm happy, and I'm going along with that. I'm swimming down the river, you know. But when my desires are something else, then it's like I'm swimming upriver. I'm trying to go against the flow of what's happening, you know, like this huge river that I have no control over. Yeah, so then I wanted to touch on one and the same as in I've heard used unity and diversity, you know, as the way that we connect with each other here, the conditioned souls. You know, we have a diversity as in we all have our own unique individual qualities and mission in this world, you know. And we can see in society how it's like really hyper focused on how we have to like present to the world about how I'm so different from everybody else, and it creates a lot of confusion and disconnection from each other. So there's no balance of this unity and diversity. And the unity of us is that we are spiritual beings, and that we have an ultimate purpose that we can work with each other and cooperate with to undertake, you know, like turning this world around from the way that it's going. Yeah, so, and then the Paramatma, like simultaneously one and different. We're simultaneously one and different from Paramatma. So Dear Govinda used a funny example the other day of they had those big things that you hit with the mallet, and it goes up and hits the bell, right? So the father is, the mallet is too big for the child, like a little small child, and he can't even pick it up. but the father is there and helps him hold it and hits it, and that's what these bodies are like. We have desire to enjoy, to kind of like make our own way, but we can't do that. So Krishna created the material world so we could be put in, and Maya to be put in an illusion, so we can kind of like think that we're the controller, and he just helps us do what we want, gives us that choice. And then we have this material body, which is controlled by Paramatma, and it's like the father. We want to go out and enjoy and do all these things. It's not really that we're actually doing it, but the father, he's the one that's picking up the big hammer and swinging it, and we're just holding on to it with him, And then I just happened to see a funny example of this on a YouTube video the other day of this kid. And this is how, like, when we have attachment to the results, and we want to taking credit for what it's actually Paramatma doing, and our desires aren't in line with that. It showed this one where this little kid, they had it, and he was gonna swing it with them. So the kid has a mind. He wants to. We have a mind. We want things to work out the way that we want. We want to hit the thing, and we want it to go all the way up and hit the bell. So, but if that's not what Krishna wants or Paramatma wants, then we're going to be frustrated because it's not going to work out the way that we want it to. So what happened was the father was there, and he swung too hard, and the kid just went flying, because he was holding onto the hammer, and the kid went flying away, right? So if I want things out of life that are beyond my capacity, they're beyond what my allotted capacity or enjoyment in this lifetime. It's more than what comes along with this body. So I have this desire, and Paramatma fulfills it. Okay, you want to try to take on something that you're not really ready for, then you're going to get the reaction. So he's there swinging the hammer, and we're just getting thrown around, Yeah, so we have our minute quality of control, which is practically nothing, and it's basically comes down to our perception of how things are happening in the material world. So if I want to we're stuck here in the material world. If my perception is seeing it as a place of enjoyment and getting what I want out of things, then I have control over that. I can either choose to see it as something to be enjoyed or something to offer in service. There's another one in the Nectar of Devotion where it says that if someone can tolerate all the situations of this world and under all circumstances offer gratitude unto the Supreme Lord, then that quality alone will bring you back to the spiritual world. So just learning, I guess, how to take the assaults of the material world and learning how to see that it's because of my attachments and my desires and my actions, my previous sinful desires, that I'm getting the reactions that I wanted, that I want to get myself caught up into. So rather than getting angry at the cause of my karmic reaction, the different people and situations, and being attached to how things are going, is just learning how to kind of like step back from that And I mean, for me, I'm at a place in this where I'm just trying to at least not beat myself up, you know, not criticize myself and beat myself down because I'm not living up to all my expectations of what I should be and what my role in this world, and things not working out the way that I want to. And I mean, I'm still have some ways to go before I can actually be grateful for accepting a lot of the stuff that's happening to me and my disappointments in that. But I feel like this is moving in the right direction, you know. Try to not be angry at the people that are causing me suffering and the situations, and also myself, you know. And then so that's really what for example what Varnashram Dharma is. I'm not talking about Sanatana Dharma at this moment, but Varnashram Dharma is like, you have the scriptures is telling us what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to do it, what the end result will be. And then if our desires are in line with that and we follow along with it, then we're going along with the orders of Paramatma. And then so that's when our suffering becomes less. We're swimming down river with the flow, you know. And I think in that sense, ultimately, we can have some realization of Paramatma because of that. We really understand truly what our psychophysical nature is, and learn how to dovetail that. Then we're able to start to learn how to see, like we have a certain nature for being empathic, you know. So we can use that for, you can use it to go out and try to, I don't know, impress a bunch of girls, or you can use it in service, you know. So once I learn to really connect with that propensity and know how to use it in its fullest extent, then I know how to connect that with Krishna, Paramatma, whatever. So another one is so the conditioned souls, we worship God through our own. I heard this nice quote recently. We basically approach God through our conceptions. Like, we have our material conditioned conceptions of who God is. And so can't really remember how I was going to work that in, but yeah. So it was basically saying about that we can't really conceive of who God is, you know, like it says in the verse, we can't really fathom who Krishna is and what God is and that. So we have to take the knowledge by Guru Sadhu Sashta, and yeah. So we're ultimately we're doing all these things. So we're Anandamayo Bhyashat. We're always seeking pleasure and seeking happiness. And we're doing that here in the material world through so many different situations and people and that. But our ultimate source of happiness is love. And then when we connect that to God or Krishna, then that's the good stuff. Yeah. So yeah. So we have to learn to connect to the most beautiful aspect of who we are, and that's our love, and to offer that to Krishna, and to with the help of Paramatma. And yeah, oh yeah, and that's another thing I forgot to put down here. So as far as the Varnashram Dharma and learning our propensities, I've had some experience of being in line with what the Paramatma dictation is in my life, though not so deep. But like I used to practice Tai Chi, for example, and every once in a while I would just really get in the zone, you know, when you're in the zone and how everything seems to be just flowing really, really smoothly and really nice, and it just seems like it's just happening so perfectly. You know, your intelligence is just so sharp and right on top of everything, you know, and it's just your skill level just jumps like so much, you know. One time I really got in the zone like that, you know. I just kind of like gave up my desire to kind of control and just really be a silent observer and go with the flow. And yeah, there I saw some pictures of some great masters. You know, they can, as soon as they touch somebody, they can make you feel like you just look like a puppet, like you just can barely even stand, you know. And I had been practicing for like a few months, and yeah, I was doing that. They call it push hands, where you just kind of try to put each other off with as little force as possible. And yeah, I was just touching the guy, and he could barely even stand. And even my teacher, he was doing martial arts for 40 years or whatever, and I never saw him do that, you know. I never saw him be able to deal with people on that level. And that's my understanding is of why he wasn't able to, and why I was able to, was because I felt so lost at that point in my life. And I was humbled by it, you know. I couldn't really find my place in the world. And so I was really humbled. And so I also heard that when we have our capacities, we get our pet capacities from Paramatma, and when we take credit for that, then that ego blocks that credit. We're not able to connect to Paramatma, and that's why I was able to do that. I was only doing it for 3 months, and this person, he's a martial arts expert, doing it since he was a child, right, 7 years old, and I was able to access a higher level of martial arts than him within the first 3 months, because my nature of my body is good for that. But the main thing was that he was proud of what he was doing. He was arrogant, and the essence of it is his teacher said this, that the essence of martial arts is that the heart is the controller. So to me, that was basically, you're learning how to get out of the way so Paramatma can basically take over, you know. And so we have to learn how to purify ourselves to see what's getting in the way of that, how our selfish desires, to want to have everything work under the way that I want it to have, to be the one that's like better than other people, you know, anything that gets in the way of selfless service and love. So And I wanted to bring it, touch on this connection to one of the offenses where it's saying that the, not to see that the holy name is imagination. Oh, hold on a second. I'll be back in 1 second. I forgot the translation.
Hare Krishna. It's a very fascinating verse here. Hope I'm giving logic to make all these distinctions.
Yeah, and this is basically my my own little purification doing this class, because sometimes I can, like when I'm singing or giving class and talking about these things, sometimes I just can speak so much from my heart and such amazing realization, and just like I can see it really moves people and it's really enlivening, and it's just like, wow, amazing. And other times it comes out so dry and boring and kind of like takes the energy out of things, right? So this is my purification, to learn how to not identify with whether things are going the way that I want them to, or that I'm just going to be like some amazing person and I can just affect people and make this amazing atmosphere all the time. It doesn't matter how much I can sit in my room and prepare for the class and stuff like that. Not necessarily going to be as amazing as I thought it was going to be, you know? So that was my misconception, you know? And just like I have my conception of reading the scripture, of what it says the Maha Mantra is and all that stuff, and what it's talking, what Krishna is and what the devotees are and what's the scriptures are talking about. I can have my conception of that and read it and struggle and feel like I'm not really getting anything from it, is because I'm looking at it through my own misconception. If when I chant, and the chanting should be streaming from the heart with devotion, you know. So I'm not really able to do that, but I'm going to give my best here. And so yeah, so we try not to relate to the chanting and the scriptures and the Krishna through what my own conception is in my head. Yeah, Achinta Beda Beda Tapa, it's inconceivable, you know. So I'm going to read this nice Sri Kevala Ashtakam. It's a really amazing song about the glories of the holy name. I don't really have that much conception of it, but I'll try to read this to you guys. And yeah, so the translation of it: more sweet than all other sweet things, more auspicious than all other auspicious things, the greatest purifier of all purifying things, the holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. The entire universe, from exalted Brahma down to the lowly clump of grass, is a product of the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. The only thing that is reality, reality again, I say reality. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Oh yeah, I was gonna ask. Try to when I'm reading this, try to find something that's most amazing to you. Like there's a point from it that's most amazing, and then we're gonna try to see if we can connect with that amazing description. We're going to see if we can try to connect with it when we do a little kirtan here. So that person is a true preceptor or a true father, a true mother, and a true friend only if they teach one to always remember the holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. There is no certainty when the last breath will come and put an abrupt halt to one's material plans. Therefore, it is wise to always practice chanting from very childhood. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Lord Hari eternally dwells in that place where truly exalted, spiritually advanced souls sing in the mood of pure devotion. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Aho, what a sorrow, what a great sorrow, more painful than any other misery in the world. Mistaking it as a mere piece of glass, the people have forgotten this jewel. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. It should be heard and heard again. It should be heard again and again with one's ears. It should be uttered over and over with one's voice. It should be perpetually sung and anew. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. It makes the entire universe seem insignificant as a blade of grass. It splendorously reigns supreme over all. It is full of eternal, conscious, divine ecstasy. It is supremely pure. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so yeah. So from reading that, I can get a conception of the holy name from that nice kirtan, the nice bhajan. So I can have that piece of data in my mind. But my endeavor, I'll say it again. Yeah, so from reading that nice bhajan, it can give us a conception of what the holy name is, you know, not what he's saying, but what I'm thinking he's saying, you know. So my endeavor, or what I'm asking, is that we remember that amazing thing that we got from the bhajan, and while we chant this a short kirtan, that we endeavor in a childlike mood of discovery, not thinking, oh, I know that about the chanting, but to actually listen and in a mood of childlike discovery, try to connect to that there. And yeah, so this is the tune that goes with this bhajan. It's very nice. The cartels, actually. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's pretty much it.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
So anybody got any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So somewhere towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada writes, the individual is completely dependent on the direction of the super self because in every step the individual self follows the direction of the super self in the matter of seeing, hearing, thinking, feeling, willing, etc. And so like my understanding is that we're usually not following the direction of the super soul. We're usually doing whatever the heck we want instead. So can you help me understand what it means that in every step the individual self is follows the direction of the super self?
Well, because I mean, it's just pretty much it's an illusion that we're actually doing things that are not in accordance with the super soul. It's as far as I understand, it's something that it has to do with our illusion of control, you know. I guess the way that we're supposed to get in line with what the super soul wants is like, it's about our conception. It's about how we're relating to the situation. Because like lust, the seating place of lust is in the senses, it's in the mind, but it's also in the intelligence. So what we're relating to in the intelligence and what the dictates of the intelligence are, and why we keep getting things don't work out the way that we want them to, is because our lust is blinding us to our connection to the dictation of super soul. We're relating to the lust, and then we're relating to our material attachment. We have an attachment to something out here, that whether we want it or something to enjoy, and that lust that's in our intelligence that's where the misconception is. That's where the disconnection is. But there actually is no time when we're not acting under the dictation of the super soul.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, the super soul is the facilitator of the spiritual and material energy. So we're as you're saying, is that we're generally in conditioned life. We're not doing what super soul wants, but we are following the direction of super soul. Just like everyone's following the direction of the government. I stop at a red light and I pay my taxes. But they say, oh, but I'm not following the direction of the government. So I'm still going to follow the direction of the government in the prison. Okay, in the prison, you eat this slop. You can exercise half an hour a day, like that. So also when our desires are material and not aligned with what the super soul wants and advises, still the super soul is facilitating material. So even when we blink our eyes, we blink our eyes, we click on that next internet article, we say, time to go to sleep, we lie, we cheat, but whatever we're doing, whatever mode of nature, as Keith is explaining, as the purport explains, it's the whole material energy is facilitated by the super soul. I think, well, no, it's not. I mean, I'm picking up the book. No, it's the super soul is controlling and directing the different synapses and the neurons through arrangements of demigods and the modes of nature and prakriti and mahatattva. And so I'm thinking I'm picking up the book, but really all I'm doing is desiring, and then the super soul is facilitating through material energy. And this question and discussion, it relates to Keith's first question to me about what is that form direction phrase. And my understanding as we continue to read the purport and in this discussion, Prabhupada is really saying this, the super soul, the intelligence is the form and direction of the super soul. And Prabhupada is creating a unique compound word, form direction, that whether our intelligence is material or spiritual, it's all being directed by the super soul in reciprocation with our desire. And so the intelligence is the form of the super soul, and it's the direction of the super soul. So there's a verse in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Upedrashtanu mantacha bharta bhakta maheshvara paramatmeti chapyukto desmin pusham param. And Krishna says the super soul is the overseer and the permitter. Those are the two main functions. So the super soul's supervising, overseeing everything, and permitting and facilitating in reciprocation with all our desires. So the super soul is giving us good, eternal, wise advice all the time. In the conditioned life, we're usually disregarding it. And if we disregard it, then the super soul facilitates our desires through material energy.
Krishna, thank you both for your answers. What really stuck out to me, Jira, was when you said, "Oh, I'm picking up the book," but like really without super soul's help of firing across the synapses, and so that all my muscles contract in the right order, I could want to pick up the book and not be able to do it if it weren't for super soul. So that made it quite clear. Thank you.
Yeah, there's another one where Prabhupada says that not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. The same.
Same idea. Same
Yeah.
idea. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
jai.
Hare Krishna. Namo
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Keith. Sorry, I've read that many times, but I got some breakthrough realization about where Prabhupada's going in that purport, including about what he means by form direction. So I appreciate it very much. Yeah, I appreciate you chose that verse. It's rational, philosophical. To get where Prabhupada's going, you need bhakti. It's not just like, a dry, logical endeavor.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a few times when I was actually doing things with Bhakti, I could see there was a lot more potency there, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. I experience that day to day when I'm doing and not doing, when I'm connected and not connected.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hare Krishna. Oh, Krishna.